Good morning. This is Justice's Waiting Room. This is a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. And I'm a socialist. In fact, hey, yay! We officially founded the American Socialist Party. We've got a starter logo. We've got a few social media locations set up where we can kind of congregate. So hey, want to make sure first identify Moa. Okay, my name is Jared Malat. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. And here's what we do here. Every morning or every show, we start out, hey, if you want to listen to War by Edwin Starr, that's our that's the song we play at the start of the show. Okay? But I'm not gonna make you listen to that. Right? I think that's huh. Let's look today. I made a 15-minute video and a 5-minute video and just was like, I should just go live because that's like forever, man. So, um, if you missed the show, for the record, I want you to look at how good I did, everybody. Look at the name. Look at the name, for example, uh, American Socialists dot Blue Sky dot Social. Come on, hey, that's pretty good. I'd say that's one for one. Okay, okay. There's a public group on Facebook. We are co-streaming live. Hey Dina, good morning. We're co-streaming live on TikTok here and on YouTube. Okay. Oh, and if you ever wondered what I thought an elected official should be doing every day that you're in office, something exactly like this. Just taking in sort of the news from the previous day, identifying what is like the most important thing going on right now that I could be interacting with the people that are going to show up that are wondering like what do you do all day, right? Other than cozy up to our enemies. Morning, good morning, good morning. But look at this. Look at this naming on Twitter too is really good. That's our Twitter handle right there. A socialist party? That's fantastic. I mean I know I'm just patting myself on the back here, but between American socialists and a socialist party for handles, those are tough. Those are tough. You tell me. Okay, so if you ask me, what is the most important thing? Okay, most important thing right now is a story coming out of the CNBC. Okay, you should be warning people, by the way. You should be warning people. Hey, here's this article out of CNBC. It says that Social Security has never missed a payment. Doge actions threaten interruption of benefits. Remember, if you've paid attention to the content I've put out, I didn't make a habit of repeating it because it does certainly doesn't feel it's toxic as fuck to say it out loud. Where you tell people, I hope you get what you voted for, right? Um, but I did recently make a video where I said, hey, I hate to be the guy. I hate that this is the thing that it's got to apply to. But if you voted for Donald Trump and your Social Security benefits get cut, don't act like don't act like they didn't tell you they were going to do it. Don't act like I didn't tell you that I sat here, I did not talk left and right, okay? I don't bother getting caught up in left and right. You know why? George Carlin, rest in fucking peace, said half of all people are stupid. The other half are even fucking stupider. So, one of the things that you'll never catch me doing is making content like attacking the right or really attacking the left. It's because there are people in this country that know what the fuck they're talking about, and there's people that just have no goddamn sense at all. Good to go? So, the reality with, hey, what's going on? Sorry, some squirrel. Um, I didn't make a habit of saying like if you voted for this, I hope it hurts you, but I did make content recently. I made a piece where I said, this is for the people on Social Security, the people that are retired, the people that are on Medicaid and SNAP are mostly elderly people. That's who I work with. We just started at about less than 8 minutes ago. We're still bullshitting. Okay. And again, part of the reason that I don't want to make a habit of talking about if you voted for this is because unfortunately, when you say things like that, it's like you're taking the election at face value first. And I think in order to say things like that, right, I think you have to understand the level of misinformation. In my mind, I get overwhelmed with the level of misinformation, and I like to think I'm pretty good at spotting bullshit. And even I'm like kind of taken aback sometimes where I'm like, it's too much. There's too much information. There's too many streams of information. It's like drinking from a fire hose constantly, right? But you feel like if you don't, then you end up you're backwards and shit. You know what I mean? I'm gonna bring that up often because there's too many people that give the greater populace too much credit. It's one thing to love your neighbor, it's another thing to anoint them. And it's like, yes, I want you to get along with people around you, but don't assume that they have your best interest at all, right? And then obviously understand that like you cannot expect that your neighbor has any fucking clue what you're talking about, right? So there's a reason that I have to every day when I go live, I have to, and it's not because I'm afraid for my life. It's because I'm afraid if I don't constantly say, this is what a socialist is. I just want equality for all, and that includes the elimination of a two-tier justice system. I'm pointing out up front, this is a very much a rich versus poor argument, not left versus right. I see life as right versus wrong, and there's very little gray area. What the fuck are we talking about? It's just that democracy and the rule of law have to hold. So it's a perfect time to be a socialist because democracy and the rule of law do not appear to apply to certain groups of people. It's a perfect time to be fucking socialist when the US is considering dropping out of NATO. if we can have an administration distancing itself from our allies and considering dropping out of NATO, we can have a socialist party. We can have a workers' party that wants equality for all, the removal of this two-tier justice system, and you have to have a plan for that. It can't just be words, right? And then also understanding that universal health care, education, income, and housing are the very core of what a modern socialist agenda needs to have. Why? When you look at, so I wanted to show you this. This is how you do this, okay? Because here's the I've told my wife this shit since we started dating. One day I'm gonna die, so you need to listen to shit I say so you can fucking repeat it. So listen, what I do is how do you build your political platform in 2025? Well, you look at exit polls and what was the most important thing to people coming out of the 2024 US presidential election. And I'm going to beat you to the numbers, okay? The economy was the most important thing, okay? So understand that the way things are right now, where the government cannot shape how corporations price their goods and services, and you are ultimately just being price gouged. Do you understand? And corporations have unknown fucking influence on politics. But politics does not influence what you pay for goods. I want to make, does everybody understand that? Like corporations buy insane access and insane ability to shape policy. But the government cannot tell them what to charge for gas. They're not telling them what to charge for groceries. And that ultimately the companies that are price gouging are also companies that are like anti-union. And so what you're working, right, right. Okay. So there's a reason I come on here every day and I say, if the economy is most important to you, then you have to understand, okay, that you live in a capitalist society. Okay. Okay. And here's what this means. Okay. What can happen when there is okay, let me get my thoughts together. I don't normally like attack capitalism because I don't want to make that my personality. Okay, because seen way too many people that have just like turned their entire motif into the assault on capitalism. And the only real argument against being anti-capitalist is like you live in the capitalist society and like you enjoy goods and services, so like you obviously are willing to work and like willing to pay taxes and pay into the system, and it's just like shut the fuck up. A capitalist is someone that's okay with the private ownership of business or the status quo. And that is that BlackRock and Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, and there's a few other firms that control most of the economy. Tell me when I'm wrong. There's a handful of corporations that control like $2 trillion in assets. And as long as we're okay with a handful of executive suites effectively deciding our lives, then you're a capitalist. If you understand that like the way things are right now, even the companies that we want to be opposed against, the corporations that we want to be opposed to, the Walmarts and shit, the problem isn't Walmart itself. It's that the environment is conducive to Walmart and its power and influence and its ability to ultimately shape policy and be able to limit minimum wage, for example. And I think if, I talk to way too many people that pay for their groceries, for example. Warren Buffett at least pays his taxes. Facts. By the way, do you want to know how crazy TikTok is? TikTok filtered out my comment that was just a YouTube link. And I had to manually approve that. I made it. That's so weird. TikTok is really decreased in quality, I have to tell you. So Jared, how would socialism affect business, the economy? What happens, you're watching socialist behavior now where corporations are dropping DEI programs and their stock weakens. Corporations have crazy leadership and their stock tanks. And the way socialism works is that the Socialist Party would tell its members, buy that stock when it's at rock bottom, especially if you work there. Encourage the social ownership of business. Encourage the layman, the employee, to let that fucking IPO tank and buy that up and become the majority and socially own that business. Take the private equity out of our business. And the problem is people see that as a path to wealth. That they think I have to become an IPO to become successful. I have to get on the stock market to become successful. And the hard reality is that you do not. You can make unimaginable money if you're in a financial position to make the moves that you want to make, if you just have the money and capital available. So, one of the things that they use to measure the economy are your willingness and ability to buy a house, to have children, get married, or finish your education, get a degree. And they keep this in mind. They've been doing studies since the 70s on how do we influence people to give the future economy a brighter outlook, buy houses, have kids, get married, get a degree. Okay, these are the four sort of markers of a healthy economy. Okay? So they've tried since the 70s to figure out if it's is it the influence of religion? So they've done studies where they took whole communities and they just fucking bombarded them with different religious groups, would come into neighborhoods and go door to door. It wasn't just the Mormons, okay? And you can look all this up. And they thought maybe if we open their eyes to religion, to world religions, it'll influence their willingness and ability to buy houses, have kids, get married, get a degree. And in case you didn't wonder, you didn't wonder. You never wanted to know this information. You don't want to know what's in this thing, okay? It actually had a negative impact. So to take this huge 50-year fucking study and break it down to like bite size kids, the effect on of religion upon a population, it dumbed it down, made them less likely to get a degree. Obviously, it increased the odds of getting married, but with marriage comes divorce. Okay. It did not have nearly the impact of people having children. So I just want to point this out as someone who grew up in the Christian church. It's not sexy at all. I'm just throwing that out there, that there's nothing about like modern Christian that like screams let's let's fucking have a child. None of that is going on. If there was anything less fuckable on Earth, I mean, look at me as a white cis male. Look how dangerously close I'm flying to the sun right now, Icarus. I was raised in the Methodist Church. I almost got hit with that shit too. Okay? But there's nothing like a religious, like white, hardcore Christian religious person. Is does it get any less fuckable? You know what I'm saying? So, say all that to say, they found in this study where they said, what was it? Could it be our we push religion on the population and what happens? And like I said, it had a negative impact on people's likelihood to get a degree, made people more likely to get married. But again, I've said that the half of all marriages end in divorce, so that's not exactly a great statistic. And then um, people were only slightly influenced to have children. So like I want you to understand if it made people 17% more likely to do one thing and 3% more likely to do another, you would say that that's not a very big impact, right? So it only had like a wild little ding ding, it caused a boner or two, you know what I mean? And then it's because of the kids. That's where the perverts are, serving religions. Anyway, so follow me. Um, One of the things that I found super interesting about the study, and I know you're not going to believe this, is that it actually reduced the ability for the individual to buy a house. And if you think about it and you peel back on it, you peel back on that whole thing, this 50-year study about the effect of religion on society. And the actual biggest statistical mover in my eyes was the 24% less chance that you own a home. Negative 24%. And you wonder, uh, have you ever met a homeless person? Hmm. So think about the impact of religion on a population. What did it do in a 50-year study? Multiple sources to back myself up. I have absolutely no problem talking about it. But I read this little blip on this study, and it was like, what happened though, it had a negative impact on people's likelihood of getting an education, and it actually, the largest impact that religion has had on a population has made it less employable. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It's fucking bananas. But what I'm saying is, when you are outwardly religious, you're fucking obnoxious, and it makes people not fucking like you. And how else do you get fired unless you live in like an at will employment state? Then you are outwardly fucking religious and obnoxious, and people fucking can't tolerate you, and you get fired from your job because you fight for what you believe in and shit. And ask me how I know, because it's fucking real. Like, and that's just is what it is. Okay. So as you can tell, the founder of the American Socialist Party, Jared Malott, this is what I believe personally. Okay. I firmly believe in the separation of church and state. Felt like the easiest thing ever to say. There's a 50-year study that has I have multiple sources by multiple fucking multiple people have written about this, about the impact of religion on society, and that it has made you less likely to seek an education and less likely to own a home. And if that doesn't make you sick to your fucking stomach, man. And again, the thing that the right keeps campaigning on is that it'll make you more likely to have children, which will make you more likely to get married, which will make you more likely to get an education and buy a house. That's what, and again, I want to say the effect that religion has on a society is only nominally impacting their and again, it's I've said modern religion is not sexy at all. So it's going to only have a small impact on your willingness and ability to have a child. And again, it's a very slippery slope to say just because someone's willing to have kids doesn't mean they're willing to have get married, buy a house, get a degree. They're not motivated like that. That's not how people work. In fact, most of keep this in mind. I want to make sure you all understand this. Do you know what is most troubling as somebody that really cares? I'm probably autistic as fuck, in case you haven't figured that out. But as someone who pays attention to numbers a whole fucking bunch, do you know what I noticed like over time? As far and again, tell me I'm wrong. Girls either have a child when they're in high school or when they're in their 30s. Because as someone that was single and dated and went out and had a whole bunch of friends, men and women that I hung out with for years, most of the people had kids when they were too young. Is again, I'm putting people in boxes. People had kids when they were too young and ignorant, or they waited until they had their shit together. And that feels like a natural those both of those occurrences feel like normal. That's normal, right? I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy to say, see, Virgo, you're a little different though. You finished college, right? So you got your life, you had your life together, right? Is what I was getting at, right? I only, and I know this is wild, but I only remember one person getting pregnant when I was in college. And and I and I was on the football team, I was in a fraternity, I was in the ski and snowboard club, I was friends with the fucking cheerleaders and the volleyball players. Like I was all over that fucking campus. Now I was not a whore. I was like having going to visit and chill and hang out with people, right? And I only knew like one person that like was in college and did it. The vast majority of my friends and shit and girlfriends that had kids, it was like later in life. And there's this big gap between and I'm thinking about the fact that I had 265 people in my graduating class, 246 graduated, I think, and 21 girls in my graduating class had a child before we graduated, which ended up being like 3%. And then like I said, when I was in college, only I only remember one girl, Stephanie. Steven and Stephanie. It was actually hilarious cuz she was like a hot girl and he was like this goofy programmer guy, Steven and Stephanie. And he used to come and tell me you don't have any condoms. And I'd be like, "What?" And he's like, "Just tell me you don't have any condoms." Like my mom literally mailed me a box of condoms. And he was like, "You're out." And I'm like, "Why?" And he was like, "Cause I'm gonna ask her if I can get her pregnant. I want her to have my baby." That only happened once, and I was pretty popular. So you would think like people that were gonna like stop using rubbers and shit and like try to have kids, if they had like a good friend like me that had protection, that was conscious, that was all over the campus, fucking around with everybody, right? Like, yes, I kept a fucking rubber on me in case the homie's trying to hit. Hell yeah, I ain't trying to get no fucking wild shit going on. What if I gotta like be around you, dog? Right? Not cause I ain't hidden, just cause I'm like conscious. You fucking wild things. Act like I didn't have friends when I was on active duty that literally. So this happened to two different parts of my life. I have a cousin and one of my best friends while I was on active duty, the most fuckable looking human beings on earth. That I literally felt like I had to also carry a rubber just in case, like, holy shit, you fucking crazy person. Three sons, didn't have kids till mid 30s. You see what I'm saying? Is like when I was in high school, when I graduated high school in 2002, 20 out of 200, about 10% of the my graduating class that either pregnant or had had a child by the time we graduated. And then I went to college. I was on active duty. Hell, I'd argue there was a good 10, 15 years for most people, for me, in my circle of friends. And they waited. Vast majority, 70% of people waited to have kids. And I think the reason that you did that is because of economic anxiety. I think obviously many of us never have ever been in a room with or around a good relationship. So I think that all also has like a major impact on people's willingness and ability to like get married, have kids, settle down. You know what I mean? It's because people equal shit. Dead ass. If there's nothing you take away from this, uh the reason I brought all that stuff up is people are gonna wonder why socialism. Why? Right now, the price of goods, for example, is not controlled so much by the company you're buying it from, right? Like we're in this cycle where we're not shopping at Walmart, right? But Walmart is majority owned by like BlackRock, and I'm just throwing this out there. And it's actually the executives at BlackRock that are pushing Walmart to charge more for their goods, to get rid of their DEI programs, for example. And how socialism works is the unions for those companies oppose that action, oppose the removal of DEI programs, for example. That would be the most socialist shit ever. Literally, the definition of socialism is any egalitarian political or social movement aimed at the seizure of the means of production or social ownership of business. Okay? Seizing the means of production ultimately means unionizing. Just so you, like you make socialism a modern concept. Because if your corporation has a unionized labor, they have advocates for better wages and benefits. And ultimately, as wages and benefits improve, you get closer to socialism, right? You can only improve healthcare so much before it's universal healthcare, and you can go. And ultimately, the problem with the universal healthcare definition is that right now in the United States, for example, I could go anywhere in the United States and receive healthcare at any VA hospital. But you, as the fucking West Pennsylvania fucking Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield gold card holder, can't go to fucking Colorado and go see whatever fucking doctor you want. So there's this definition of universal health care that ultimately needs to change, and also we need a better healthcare system. Period. You should be able to change your healthcare pretty much willy-nilly. Like if you move, you should just be able to change it. You move again, you should just be able to change it. What the fuck are we talking about? There shouldn't be issues, eligibility periods where you're allowed to change your healthcare if you need to. You should just be able to do that. The current healthcare system is fucking broken. But wherever you go and you're going to be for a while, you ought to be able to get free healthcare while you're there. And that area's community's taxes is what ultimately pays that bill, not you. Because if we're going to live in a society that takes taxes, and keep in mind the classic socialist economic theory suggests that taxes, interest, and rent are derivative of your labor, and that we ought to do as much as we can to limit your taxes. We should eliminate anything involving interest. So you know how like who did the junk fees? Was that Joe Biden? Joe Biden signed the anti-junk fee legislation that Donald Trump's trying to walk back, right? Well, that would be like a socialist thing to do, right? Is because you want to do things like eliminate the cost of healthcare. You want to keep corporations from stealing, right, from people with no repercussions. I think part of democracy being like super important on that article that I shared. Democracy is only good when it holds up. And so we're on the cusp of like tomorrow, the next like 48 hours are pretty fucking. Sorry, I'm not following you anymore. Thanks, Greg. This isn't an airport. No need to announce your departure. It's all good, dog. Nothing I'm saying is like divisive, right? I just want everyone to have universal health care, education, income, and housing. I want you to make sure that you become not afraid to speak out. I want you to join a union. I want you to protest, boycott, strike, do all of the nonviolent things that have gotten us so far over time because they're good, and not descend into violence, which is, I'm afraid, what has happened so many times over the course of history is that we've just succumbed to violence. And I'm telling you, there's a reason that I laugh about the Second Amendment. What good is the Second Amendment when the government has drones? The fuck are you talking about? Right? Hey, it's great. Kat, our artist that made our logo, I'm so proud of. Has somebody that's gonna digitize that art, which is even better. Great. But we'll always have I like that we have like the proofs, right? We have all these proof of concept art that we were working towards something before we got a digital logo. Yeah, the thing about executives, um thing about executives, I missed the logo. Yeah, it's on all the pages, dude. And it's also, hey, given that the small size of the channel for the American Socialist Party here, we'll use the Discord as a gathering place. Yeah. Like I said, democracy is only good when the Constitution holds up. I think one of the problems that I saw is they didn't want to charge Donald Trump with violating the Insurrection Act because it hadn't happened for more than 100 years. And to me, that's like saying democracy's dead. Or, 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 I'm gonna keep putting this little out there, this little tidbit out there. Something tells me there's something going on behind the scenes. It's disturbingly quiet. It's like the only people that you hear every day are Trump. Trump and Vance and Musk. It's like the all day, every day, nonstop. There's nothing else going on. And it's like, huh, okay. But on terrorism and national security, I actually wanted to speak on this. So while I was on active duty, my platoon commander decided he was going to get a college degree. So he enrolled at a local college to take classes in criminal justice. And the first class he took was the Introduction to Terrorism. Okay. And he had to write a paper on what is the most pressing issue facing the average American citizen. And because he's on active duty, the teacher said, and also if you're on active duty, do some fucking research on what is the most dangerous, most pressing issue facing active duty personnel. And he came to me because he was struggling with his research. Purdue Owl. And so I went with him to his house, sat on his internet on his computer, and taught him how to use like online libraries to look up the information that he was looking for, to find better sources, but better books, how to use a library. And long story short, helped him gather the references necessary to produce a long form, well written, light years ahead of what that man was capable of. Uh, wish I had a copy of. We examined every bit of data we could. This was 20 years before I even went into data analytics. And it was staggering. And it's crazy now to think about it that we wrote this paper in like 2006 and knew then the most pressing issue the US, the average US citizen and the average active duty personnel faces: white Christian nationalists. I know y'all were probably like 2006 is probably like Haji or something. No, fam. The call came from inside the house. 'Twas us. It's like we knew in 2006 the Confederacy never died. You know, it just got dumber. It got it got money is what happened. If you really want to talk about it, okay. So one of the most important issues here, and if you want to, yeah, it's completely stupid. That's why I want it federally legal. There's all kinds of studies that say cannabis has a positive impact. Mary Jane has a positive impact for veterans, right? And also all these states telling you how much money they're collecting in taxes, and you do a little math that, like, what is the cost of socialism per state? And it's like, oh, roughly the amount that they make from taxes. You're a librarian, you teach databases. Hmm. That's the next step is I'm trying to figure out what is the most secure platform to create a database, right? Like where do you want to host the database? But anyway, one of the most important issues here. Oh, I needed to post that over here. Oh, I did that. Okay, that's what I'm looking at today. Types of Supreme Court justices candidates would pick. Right now, if we don't expand the Supreme Court's going to hold us back. So we need a socialist who says, I'm going to expand the Supreme Court. You want to support candidates that are like, we need to expand the Supreme Court so we can push progressive legislation through. Otherwise, it'll never happen. You know, if we don't limit Supreme Court justice terms, if we don't make Supreme Court justices subject to some sort of honor code, some enforceable set of rules, we definitely don't have political candidates that are even talking about that right now. And then and immigration, everybody's worried about immigration. And I want to make sure I say this little ditty, okay? So one of the things about immigration that we have to understand, okay? If you are a white person and you live in the United States, you are the immigrant. Dead ass. If you're a black person and you live in the United States, you're an immigrant. Dead ass. If you are a Latino person and you're from any part of Latin America, you're also an immigrant here in the United States. So the big problem that I have with all this talk about immigration is stupid because y'all are the immigrants. The only people in my eyes who should be anti-immigrant, and it makes sense, Hold on, before you throw tomatoes. And it also makes sense is if you're an American Indian. Then it makes sense for you to be anti-immigrant. It makes sense. I can fucking get with that. Okay, I can see your fucking point of view. Yeah, you can't be anti-immigrant on stolen land. You idiots. I get it. I get it. But at least that fucking makes sense. I can fucking get with that. You know what I mean? I may be like, what the fuck? That I met this Indian guy. He was super anti-immigrant. I was just fucking shocked. I was shocked that that person actually existed. But I'm legitimately confused anytime I hear like a white person be anti-immigrant. I'm like, you realize you are the immigrant, right? Like, where are you from, bro? Where are you from, bro? And they're like, England. And I'm like, right. You your family fucking immigrated here. Okay? So I want to be neutral on wars. Well, I think one of the things about politics, period, is you have to understand in the United States, those powers, I just don't think they mean a lot anymore. I think the U.S. military is powerful and ultimately responsible on its own. I'll say this. Um, I'm not a fan of the military industrial complex, and I think that far too much of our tax dollars goes to pad the pockets of billionaires, and that if it includes defunding the military industrial complex, or changing how we pay our tax dollars to those companies. But I'm for limiting corporate handout, the government handouts to corporations. I'm naturally do not think. I only think there are limited circumstances in which the government should be keeping a business afloat. For example, I don't think we should have bailed out the bank industry. I think it should have just let it collapse. But as far as my stance on war, there's a reason that I'm like, I should build a political party and not run for political office. I want Putin dead. See? Shouldn't be in charge because I'm trying to kick his door in. What the fuck are we talking about? I want BB dead too. I want Viktor Orban dead. You should probably never put me in charge. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm the one going like, how the fuck are four people fucking me over right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, I got. How many enemies do you think I should have before I. You know what I mean? It's like, he should probably not be in charge. But as far as like war, like put boots on the ground type shit, there's no need for any of that. Every country has a need to defend itself, and you're still gonna have the U.S. military is gonna have worldwide influence, right? But what if you scale back the military industrial complex? What if you scale back your investment in that and say, actually, it needs to be controlled by the U.S. military. They need more larger sphere of influence. Here's why. Here's why. You ready for this? Because if you don't like invest in the US military, that's how you get the military industrial complex where all those companies can put the shit that they're making because the US isn't doing that. So, as far as like war, being like pro war and everything, I'm not about like trying to get Americans killed. But again, the reason I think that I'd be great to like build a political party because I have like a good brain, not because I should be in charge of other people, right? And I think I'm not talking about declaring war when I'm saying Orban, Putin, BB, Musk, right? What's a dumb question? My thought, no, it's one thing. I'm not. I'll put it like this: there are a lot of pro-war people out there, and I'm not one of those people. I'm pro take out the target. What the fuck are we talking about? All those resources for Osama bin Laden? All those resources for Osama bin Laden? For Saddam Hussein? All those resources in Afghanistan? All those Americans that have died in Iraq and Afghanistan and neighboring countries? To not end Russia? To not end the Kremlin's impact? I got restricted. I got restricted for that. I got restricted for that. Yeah. I'm definitely pro handle your business, right? Education. Obviously, I want universal education, right? I want to encourage colleges and universities to go tuition free. And think about this, the first major universities to hear what I'm saying and just go ahead and do it. Think about you win. You win. You are offering socialized education. Go tuition free. Just ask them to be willing to donate when they after they graduate. Give them a free degree. Watch how hard they'll work for you now. Now that they don't have $250,000 in student loans. Okay? What if you didn't know what student loans were? What would you have done education wise? Let's see. Healthcare, again, you know how I feel about it. I want universal healthcare. The healthcare already exists. You just can't enroll in it, and that sounds an awful lot like a button push. Tunk. Everybody can enroll in this now. Okay? As far as gun reform, I'm not really a big fan of guns. Why? Well, the purpose of the Second Amendment, by definition, is to have a well regulated militia that would overthrow a tyrannical government. And not only do we not have a well regulated militia, but we have a tyrannical government, and absolutely dog fuck is being done about that by a militia. Where are you now, you fucking cosplaying pussies? Exactly. Anybody? Anybody? Social Security is about to get cut off. Veterans benefits, SNAP, Medicaid, it's all coming. Again, I hope it's only disrupted in only a few days. I hope it gets disrupted only for a few days. Maybe then we'll see a well-regulated militia rise up and take over a tyrannical government. But again, yeah, imagine no Putin, no Orban, no Bibi. Okay. So naturally, I think if the government has drones, you having a gun's pretty stupid, based on the definition of the Second Amendment. The whole point was to be able to take over a tyrannical government. Well, if you don't need a gun if you don't intend to take over a tyrannical government. I think I would ban the AR. Also, I think I would get rid of qualified immunity for police. I would make it so if you commit a gun crime as a police officer, you should face whatever the full civil penalty is for that. You should not be granted an exception. Again, if it's like self-defense and you're being attacked and shit and it's deemed self-defense, that's not qualified immunity, idiot. Qualified immunity is when you do end someone's life with your pistol and you get off scot-free. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think police should have that. Okay? As far as abortion, I'm pro-choice. I'm pro. It's none of your goddamn business. Mind your motherfucking business, bitch. I'm very much pro-choice. I'm very much. Some of you should have been aborted. What the fuck? As far as taxes, I think we need a political party in the United States. We need a political party in the United States that wants to make billionaires pay their fair share in taxes, isn't funded by foreign assets, right? Ultimately, I think that your taxes should be better used and invested in you as the people, okay? And then crime was important. You know what has a big impact on crime? Are you ready for this? How effective the justice system is at charging and holding people responsible with crime responsible for the crime that they commit. Is this on? Is this thing on? So the justice system's only good if it works. Same thing with democracy. I feel the same way about democracy. Democracy is only good when it holds. Same thing with crime. The justice system's only good when it holds. So if it holds, I'm for it. if it's broken, I'm for its dismantling and rebuilt and being rebuilt by the people for the people. What the fuck? As it refers to crime and gun policy, I also think you defund police by repurposing them entirely and taking the pistol off their hip and putting it in their trunk. 99.2. I want you to think about this number. 99.2. That's the percentage of calls not requiring a firearm in the United States per the Department of Justice. 99.2. They don't even need it. Don't even need it. Okay. And then one of the things that struck me there, I was like, oh shit, socialism's perfect for this. One of the most important issues, according to voters coming out of the 2024 US election, was distribution of income and wealth in the United States. Again, I'm a champion of federally legalize MJ and give everybody $500 every Friday. Hey, we're gonna reset here. We only got 23. We got restricted. 2,000 viewers today. Okay. As far as the distribution of wealth and income, I think it's time for universal income. Everybody gets $500 every Friday until you turn it down. Until you say I don't need it. Good to go. I think if everyone were able to just keep their lights on and keep themselves fed, in addition to what you're doing for work, people would be a lot more passionate about their work if they weren't breaking their fucking back to do it. You know what I mean? People are a lot more happier when they don't have to decide whether to eat or buy gas, or eat or pay bills, or they're putting their food on a credit card. That's how you know you live in a violent, and that's how you know capitalism is violent, is because I talk to people every day that are financing their fucking groceries. I think that you have politicians out here impacting the cost of your medication. That impacts your pocketbook. And I think I would give everybody $500 every Friday. Universal income. Make the United States the greatest country on earth. Make it. Your education's free. You get income. Okay. As far as the federal budget deficit, one of the things that you can do is stop giving so much goddamn money to billionaires and stop giving them tax breaks and make them pay their fair share of taxes. And we run a positive budget the whole time I'm in office anyway. One, because I want to help people that need it the most. And otherwise, I want to set the future up for success, right? I'm thinking about leaving a healthy surplus for the future, right? As far as foreign affairs, I think our relationships with our allies are the most important, and that ultimately we only want to have a few enemies, right versus wrong, right? That's all we're really saying is who's doing it right, who's doing it wrong. Our adversaries are the people doing it wrong, right? And that's the R word, the C word. What is it? Hungary? Um, NK. But yeah, the situation in Middle East between Israelis and Palestinians was super important too. Okay. Free Palestine. I think this past administration and this current administration are funded a genocide. I think that Bibi already has ICC charges. So does Putin. Donald Trump, Elon Musk are next. As far as energy policy, um, I want to see people get solar panels, water power. I want to see people do that. I want you to be less reliant on. You want to hear the scariest shit ever? You ready? People are gonna call me a fearmonger. There are 9 substations in the United States that control the entire grid in the United States, the electric grid. And if like 2 of those go down, it could take down the entire electric grid in the United States. And oh, by the way, one of them is in Texas and it blew up not long ago. So, fortunately, we've made it mostly through the winter here in Indy. It feels like it's been pretty warm lately. Okay. As far as relationships with Russia, remember that's our enemy, and we should never see them as adversaries. And what happened in the Oval Office was fucking despicable. Okay? Russia is our enemy. Taking money from Russia, race relations. Again, white supremacy is the foundation to the West, is literally what Richard Spencer said in 2004, the former white supremacist. The Grandmaster Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, David Duke, the former Grandmaster Dragon. White supremacy is Russia's key to the West. So when someone's racist, I automatically think like, oh, they bit on Russian propaganda pretty hard. That's what I think. Okay. As far as relationship with China, China is one of those rocky situations where their world economy is so strong, their technology contribution to the world is so strong, their population is so large that you have to see them as a strategic ally in that you don't want to fight them. You want to see them as an ally. But their behavior makes it hard to trust them. The things that they do makes it hard to trust them. And you can point to any number of things they've done in the world recently and say some of the things that China's done is troubling. But that said, if they're willing to be an ally, you would want to be allies. If they're doing things that enemies do, we need to talk about sanctioning China and taking action against people that are, like cutting underground cables and funneling money into nefarious shit and giving technology to bad guys, stuff like that. As far as with trade with other nations, obviously, like it's important to have healthy trade uh, relationships the world over, and that inciting your fucking allies is not the play. Your bordering neighbors, your Canadian and Mexican neighbors, you want to love on them people. They keep you safe. Okay. And then climate change, obviously, one of the things that I don't think I've done a good enough job of is talk about climate change and how it's going to impact us. And I keep meaning to tell this story, but I have ADHD like a motherfucker. I'm caffeined up. Okay. In terms of climate change, I want to talk about an interview that I watched. And told this story before, so if you've heard it, just sit there and hear me talk about climate change. So this guy is being interviewed and he's wearing a mop suit and he's a white dude and he's got glasses on and he's a little older and he's clearly frazzled, like frazzled Virgo. Okay. And the reporter is asking him about what's going on. And he says, long story short, I think this was one of the oil liner crashes. And he said, it's going to be devastating to the diversity of the local fauna. Um, and he starts fucking gushing, crying. And he says, and I think he's foreign. I think he's like Swiss or something. And he says, in America, they have this regular conversation about immigration. And he's like, and I just keep thinking about what capitalism's done to the world and what it does to the world. And or think about like a climate disaster as a result of like an oil liner crashing, right? And he said, if you live in a small island colony and climate change wipes your little island off the map, and you want to give you and your future self a chance at survival, and you can buy one ticket, where would you go? The US of A. So when you have issues with immigration, are you considering the hand that climate change had in that immigration issue that we're going to face in the future? Where on a global scale, the United States is a massive country, largely uninhabited in the middle of the part of the United States. And the world is going to immigrate there. Hmm. You see it come out of my mouth? I said it. They're coming. Hundreds of millions of people will flee to the United States because it has a very large area of inland land that's not densely inhabited. And what will you do then when immigration at that level is on your doorstep? And understand that it was climate change. And people put their nose in the sand. Do you know, I never talk about this, but you know why my parents didn't go to Hawaii very often? Because I used to tell my parents about the impact their flight was having, flying from like O'Hare to LA to Hawaii, or Indianapolis to LA to Hawaii, and how much CO2 it was, and how much that costs. That's why they didn't go that often. I'm just as obnoxious now as I was then. Okay. And then obviously, but to me, it's one of the more important things. And again, we're not quite to an hour and a half, but we spent a good hour plus going through the most important issues in order to U.S. voters, and having actual thoughts, opinions, and full blown conversations about the most important issues. And last on this list is transgender rights. Okay. And I want to say it pretty easily. We either all matter or none of us do. And an attack on transgender people is an attack on the smallest population group in the United States, probably the world. The smallest population group are transgender people out of all the groups that they try to break us all down into. So when you see anti-trans legislation, I want you to think about how small and insignificant that legislation is, given that it is aimed at the smallest population group. And that should tell trans people how powerful you are. That they actually sit around and draft up legislation banning you from the military, banning you from sports. Doesn't that it should make you feel powerful? If you're a trans person, fuck yeah. They had a draft whole legislation aimed at the smallest population group. And so it kind of feeds into that video I made yesterday, that Martin Niemöller's poem. First they came for the communists. I didn't speak up because I'm not a communist. Then they came for the socialists. I didn't speak up. I'm not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. I didn't speak up. I'm not a unionist. And they came for the Catholics. I didn't speak, or the Jews. I didn't speak up because I'm not a Jew. Then they came for me, and by then there was no one left to speak for me. Exactly. If we don't start speaking up for our trans friends, they're going to wipe them off the face of the earth. I just think that's what your leadership should be saying. If we don't start standing up for the smallest population groups, they're going to be eradicated. That's the attempt. And we can pretend like it's anything else. But when you run a company, when you run a government like a company, you do things like eliminate programs you consider extraneous. So understand when you see someone anti DEI, that's anti gay, LGBTQIA plus, understand that they're a bigot. That's a bigot. Naturally, that person would get fired at every job for being a fucking bigot. Okay? So understand, on the whole, oh my God. And Elon Musk, let's talk about him last. Okay? Cat, you made me think of Elon Musk with that comment. One of the more appalling things about Elon Musk is that the only child that I'm aware of that he had as a result of literal his dick inside somebody is his trans daughter. And the reason that he doesn't have a relationship with her is because that's the kid that isn't an IVF kid, as far as I know, that turned out to be trans, and it's like he has so much power and control, but not over that. And also, I want to make sure that when we talk about Elon Musk, we say you understand the reason he's such a terrible person is because he had a penis enlargement surgery that went wrong and his dick is botched. And it's like beyond repair. I know. Oh my God, that's fucking insane. Ask me how I know. Don't throw up in your mouth. He's amazing. What it would be if he just loved everyone, right? And then I want to point out Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan last night, and Elon Musk told Joe Rogan, "You're not a Nazi." Uh, Joe Rogan told Elon Musk, "You're not a Nazi." Elon Musk said that all the hate that he gets wears on him, and I'm one of those people that I don't have to be told what should be happening here, but I just want to make sure you all know that yes, yesterday I founded the American Socialist Party. That might be the hope that it will be the most important thing that I ever do. And not even a day later, I'm going to tell you that if you don't start fucking with Elon Musk so hard that that motherfucker quits, okay? I'm just saying, if you ever wanted to punk on somebody and it be to your benefit, I'm just saying he really is deeply impacted by all of the hate. Uh huh. and the beatings will continue until morale improves. So, if I'm again doing anything impactful, I yesterday we founded the American Socialist Party. Today, I'm telling my audience from my daily live podcast that if you don't start giving that man shit non fucking stop, I don't know that we can be friends. I think that if I could inspire any of you today, it's to start making anti Elon Musk content. Start making content absolutely attempting to disturb Elon Musk. Why? Because it bothers him. Because it bothers him. Deadass. You see, one of the things I learned, I was a Vox Media employee for 6 years covering the Indianapolis Colts. Nobody cared. Okay. And one of the things that happened when I first got a keep in mind, I feel like that's a pretty good accomplishment. For 6 years I was a paid Vox Media employee covering the Indianapolis Colts. No one cared. Very early in that opportunity, I got a group message on Facebook from a bunch of guys I went to high school with who I didn't know, like, still. We weren't talking. And they were mad because I got this job at Vox. And they went so far as to like threaten to beat me up and shit. Grown men. Like, this is in the last decade or so. And nothing happened. Uh, they gave up because they're pussies. Come on. Come on. I offered to meet up with all of them. All of them. Like, I'll beat all of your asses. What are you even talking about? No, absolutely no problem doing it. And they pussied out because they're pussies. But what I learned in the wake of that from Vox Media, who read the fucking comment sections on the articles I was writing, and they said, don't read the comments. Don't even bother. Now, over time, over that 6 year period, I didn't read the comments. I stopped because I literally got threatened with violence first, up front, from people I went to high school with. And can you think about this? I was like 15 years removed from high school. That's what made it like, what? Why are you threatening me? Oh, because I actually like my journalism career happened, is happening. But yeah, don't read the fucking comments. So I already knew. I already knew. You don't want to be famous. You don't want to do that shit. But Elon Musk, hey, hey, he reads the comments. That's what I'm the whole crux of my fucking message today. I know there was people in the comments that like, cause he talked about Elon Musk being on Joe Rogan last night. I was saving it for the fucking end. Hey, Elon Musk breaks the rule. Elon Musk, I know I live in the Midwest, Virgo. There's a reason I'm giving my audience the instructions. I live in fucking Indiana. Okay. Elon Musk reads the fucking comments, bro. Hey, if you remember, I told you absolute power corrupts absolutely. But you know, Trump's work wife, yes. Yes, Sally. Half of all people are stupid, the other half are even stupider. The late great George Carlin said. Cat, sometimes you can't conflate veteran and idiot. Do you understand? You can't conflate, oh, they were a veteran and they're a total fucking moron. Sometimes you're just a total fucking moron that happened to have served. Dead ass. Think about, I think somebody said like 2 million veterans voted for Donald Trump. Hmm. I hope your healthcare and benefits aren't disrupted. So yeah, if there's anything that you get out of today's message, it's that hey, go to Twitter, follow the American Socialist Party. Okay, nobody's following it. Go on Facebook, join the group. Okay, go on Blue Sky, and listen. Let me inspire you. Okay, let me inspire you to make content. Okay, make content. Okay, Sally, appreciate you. Make content making fun of Elon Musk because he reads the comments and it greatly affects him. And if you want to beat up a bully, listen to me. When I was in high school, we had a bully. His name was Justin Heatberg, but he was a badass athlete, best wrestler, best football player. He was even the best track, like the thrower. He threw like disc and shot and shit. He was a fucking great athlete. Okay. But he was a terrible bully. Okay. Terrible bully. And long story short, he kind of hazed the girl into fucking him, and she made signs making fun of him for having a little penis, and it fucked with him more than any opponent ever could. It impacted his play more than any opponent ever could, and he had to be double and triple teamed. But him being an asshole got his fucking way with a girl and treated her like shit afterwards, and she put him on blast for having a little dick. And it greatly impacted his ability to play sports. That again, once I find out where the little gap in the armor is, aw, did we got kicked off YouTube. Sexual exploitation. I was just saying that when I was in what the fuck, TikTok? Left some whoppers on that show. It's funny. We got kicked off of TikTok. Oh man. For making fun of Elon Musk having a little dick or having a mutilated penis. And ultimately it's just funny. Like how is this not funny? He's greatly impacted by the things people say about him. Hey, listen, I don't know if you I don't normally have to be told very much how to win a fight or an argument. Am I making sense? if I know that my enemy or my opponent, it's so stupid. For the record, we're getting way we were basically nobody was being allowed on that. They're crazy talk. Oh yeah, there was a SNL skit last night. I watched that first thing this morning. Choice. Again, like I said, uh if I've never felt stronger about, oh, this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. Hey, insult Elon Musk. Like, I think we've just been too kind. I'm one of those people. I don't need much instruction. Uh, Hey, yeah, okay. So it's so lame. You get kicked off TikTok again. It's fine. We'll just be live on YouTube and Clapper. Yeah, right. So dumb. I just want you to know that I could have been sexist. I could have been sexist against women, and I guarantee you we would have never gotten banned. What do you bet me $100 if I was a fucking full blown fucking misogynist, we would have never gotten a fucking. Nobody would ever said a word. But I was joking about Elon Musk has a mangled PP, and also said that people's hatred towards him affects him. Hey, hey, hey. I don't gotta be told a whole lot. I'm one of those people who requires very little instruction, willing to get banned on TikTok live for it. So, have a good rest of your day while we wind down here. Oh, did I not share Eat the Rich? Obviously, You know how I feel about war. We play war. What is it good for every single day? Clearly, there's stay ready and you don't have to get ready. But certainly I have no imperialistic dreams where I feel like we need to be expanding U.S. territory to include calling Greenland Red, White, and Blue Land and renaming the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not that ignorant or arrogant. Yeah, the only real way I won't be scrolling on those sites anymore and using them, but I'll definitely be posting content on there. Oh, hey, but but it's so easy. We just gotta name it. What we gotta figure out is what do we call Elon's mangled penis?